Hello and welcome to a session of Before the Storm, though I have reskinned this with a superhero setting and called it Before the Endgame. This is from a post I did on the Age of Ravens blog a while back. And just the other day, I was like, I really want to play Before the Storm because it's a really great game. It is from the Seven Wonders collection, which you can see, I've got the cover over here, which is an amazing collection of games from Pelgrane. They're all really solid story games, very, very different from one another. I think that's the amazing thing about this collection is they feel coherent, and yet each game is going in a very different direction. My name is Lowell, pronouns he, him. I'm going to be going through some setup right now. Our first segment is going to be about character creation. I'll have the players introduce themselves when they introduce their characters. So you're going to hear me talking for a bit. To start, let me kind of walk through our CATS document. Our concept is that this is a group of heroes. Tomorrow is the final battle. The final battle that is going to decide everything, and it's very likely that lots of the characters aren't going to make it. The situation is dire at this point. And this is them talking that night before the battle, with us flashing back to what led to this, to what flashing back to understanding who these heroes are. So we start, talk about our approach here. We start with making our characters. Those are based a little bit on card prompts, but we've got a lot of room to make some decisions. We decide the setting as well. We then go to play out scenes. We kind of start in the present time, and then anybody can ask a question that will flash us back, and we take a few minutes to play the flashback to resolve that question, and then kind of come back to the present and see how that informs our play. Once we have a certain number of cards in front of us, because this is sort of a card-based game, then we will then move to the end game, which will resolve the big final battle, and we'll walk through when we get to that point. We'll be taking regular breaks throughout this. Leah has a chunk towards the end that we're going to try to get other people's scenes and then get our break so that we kind of move into that. But we'll talk about that when we get closer to that time period. Our goal here is to learn about these characters. The tone is serious and tragic, but with a chance to see loves and humor in the flashbacks. We'll be setting some things about the lines and veils, and maybe if you want, we can add a little bit to the palette as well when we go through that. We Before the Storm has actually an early game that has nice safety tools baked in. They have an interesting thing called the pause rule where you can ask for a pause at any time. We're going to be using our typical Gauntlet set of safety tools, which are a layered set, beginning with lines and veils, which we have on our character keeper there. Hard lines being anything that we'll just say absolutely not. Veil meaning that we'll fade to black on that. And ask first is we want to check in. And checking in is going to be an important part of this because we're going to be doing flashbacks and asking things and maybe even suggesting things for other characters. We always want to be checking in with people about, I think this is maybe what has happened to your character. Is that cool? We also want to be checking in on that. We've got a lot of ask firsts on there. I'll go through the safety tools here real quick. So hard lines right now, as established by the PCs, by the players rather, and this will vary. I'm going to check in again on these after a bit. Are dental horror, harm to children, sexual assault, and torture. And then we have veils on eye injuries, graphic gore, homophobia, and racism. And then ask first, meaning we definitely want to check in before we bring this in, harm to animals, mind control or PC betrayal, rioting, sexual content, slavery, and suicide. Those are all kind of ask first things. And so we will want to check in on those. to make sure. And I think some of those issues, those ask first ones we may see in play, we definitely want to be checking in on them. Another line is pregnancy peril in all forms is off the table. But again, I'll check in on these. We have this I stole from other people, but I put a romance cross check here. Basically, what you're feeling is about establishing romantic connections between characters. And we've marked that as receptive, ask first, or no thanks. And we've got PCs and NPCs in there. We're all going to be game mastering in some ways from time to time. We'll all be creating NPCs. So I encourage you to take a look at that. Finally, the game also has what it calls encourage, which is almost like a palette from Microscope. So if there are things you like definitely want to see more of, we're going to kind of leave that open. And if you want to put something in there as we go during this character creation or during play, you can put that as things we want to move forward on. Second set of save tools is the X card. Everyone here is familiar with that. Verbal is the easiest one, or a gesture, and don't have to justify it. We'll only ask to know exactly where we need to cut. And then lastly, open door, meaning that if you're uncomfortable, if you have to leave, you have to step away for whatever reason, you can do that. It'd be great if you tell us you're going to be back, but that is not necessary. So that is like all of the setup stuff. So we're going to begin with the question of the setting here. And we have a setting tab that is going to have us ask some questions. We'll establish these facts about the setting, and then we'll move to the character creation. So in the original Before the Storm, there's a prophecy and all kinds of details. We are building a lot more of this, and we can kind of jump around on how we want to be doing this. And I think what I want to start with maybe is the kind of multiple choice questions that we have, and maybe from that we'll figure out the ones that are more open-ended, like what is the name of the enemy, what is our base called, and so on. So we've got a set of 6 questions here. If you look at the drop downs on them, there are a number of options, or you can come up with something else. So Stephen, would it be okay if I started with you on this first one? And again, we'll check in to make sure everybody's cool with it. So we got a set of choices there on the enemy fights with. Any of those appeal to you? You are muted.
Thank you. I want to ask a question about the setting.
Yeah.
You specifically in the setup for this game discussed some specific touch points on, existing
Sure.
like Endgame and the Phoenix Saga and things like that. Do we want to shy away from that and create our own thing, or are we trying to replicate something a little bit more that we have a background with, or we have a common story already established?
I think more feel than specifics.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah, definitely not. So I wasn't imagining established characters or anything like that.
Okay, good. Okay, so I like the enemy fights with a hive mind which constantly adapts.
Okay. So very cool with that. Okay. So we know that much. And then David, what do you want for the enemy is led by?
That's a. I think I'm going to go for an immortal conqueror. Okay. I quite like if we've got this hive mind that, yeah, it's sort of still has some personality to it, yeah, I think that could be cool.
Absolutely.
Kind of getting that Myrmidon ant thing going
on. Awesome. It gets us away from the nebulous Galactus cloud kind of thing. Leah, what about for they've already?
They've already taken control of the weather and other natural forces.
Weather. Excellent. And then our base has survived until now. I want to go a full-on tragedy with a team of fallen supers sacrifice themselves to gain us time. Come back to you, Stephen. The object the enemy wants and that we hope to use against them is...
I like the mysterious box crafted by a race of lost techno gods.
Okay. I just like the phrase techno gods. So. Excellent. So, David, roll back to you here on this. Retrieving the object was...
Ooh, this is a tricky one because quite a few of these are quite juicy. I think... Yeah, I think I'm going to go for the... I'm going to go for the reason our team put aside their differences and reunited.
Okay. So we were split.
Yeah, I think so. It's a tough choice, that one. Those top three, our last great adventure together and the first time we've come together were also very much up there. But I think, yeah, reunited is fun.
Excellent. Leah, a name. This is the most difficult part. What shall we call this foe?
Morphomagus.
Morphomagus. Okay, I'm going to have you spell that in the thing too. So we know our weather control, team of fallen supers. Let's see here. What are we going to call the base? I'm going to misspell Guardian in multiple ways. I'm going to just call it Guardian Prime. I don't know whether it's land or space based. What do you think? Is it in a city? Is it out in the wilderness? Is it a space or a space elevator? What do you think? Any thoughts that I'm going to open this to the table?
I quite like the idea of maybe like not being like right in the center of a city, but maybe overlooking a city, like on a big, hill or mountain sort of above a city.
Okay, yeah. So we're outside, not necessarily in the middle of population center, but this place, natural beauty to it, and it kind of rises above the city that's connected to. Okay. I think that gives us some things to work with, to be thinking about as we're going through this. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to be making our characters. And let's go over to that characters tab. If everybody can grab a column of your choice. I'll grab the first one just because. So the character sheet is set up in a little bit odd order for the way that we're going to be doing this. So what we're going to be doing now that we kind of know the setting, we have a sense of what it's going to be, we're going to be building the basics. And the basics are going to be the 4 questions that are on lines 14, 15, 16, and 17. You will notice that each of those is a drop down. And you're not going to exactly get your full choice on those drop downs. So we're going to go now for the first time over to our playingcards.io. I'll put the link again in the chat. So at the start of the game, everyone's dealt 8 cards, and you're going to use 4 of these. The other 4 are going to get shuffled back, and everything's going to return to the deck. So don't worry about your choices. What you're going to do is take your deck of 8, look at them, and then assign them. If you'll notice, there's ace, 2, 3, 4, and then the face cards are on those drop downs. And so you'll use one of those cards for each of the drop downs to figure that out. Doesn't have a mechanical weight outside of that. This is just a way to kind of narrow in. It is okay if 2 people have the same thing, because we'll kind of figure out the differences between them. Now with playingcards.io, you'll notice there's space down at the bottom. You'll drag your section down to that. But I'm going to have you do that in order because this particular program does not like it when multiple people grab things. So Stephen, can I assign you North and have you grab your cards down?
Okay. You have to do these one at a time?
I think there's a way to grab more of them, but I'm not sure how.
Okay. All done.
And then you'll have them flipped over and you can start looking at those. Leah, can I have you take the East? And then David, can I have you take the South? And then I'll grab the West here in a second. So what you're going to do now is make those choices, and then you're going to come up, back up to the top. We get some of the basic things. My name is, my home is, my backstory is, gives your character general backstory. And there are some things that you want to decide. One of them is I have to win tomorrow. Because you need to restore something, you need to protect something, you need to avenge something, you need to impress someone, you need to get something, you need to forget about something, atone, honor. All of those things are reasons why you yourself have to win. And then kind of based on what you've chosen as those prime traits based on the cards, I believe strongly. And this is an interesting statement, I believe we're the only ones who can do this. I believe I have the right to do X. I believe I will be the leader when all is said and done. I believe we'll stay together. All of those things are strong beliefs there. So you'll do all of that stuff. And then after we do introductions, we'll do this disagreements and secret section. So now I'm going to stop talking for a bit and I will leave you to it. If you have questions, just say.
So I have a question. We will only use 4 of these cards. The other 4 cards will not be used at all.
Correct. And everything will get reshuffled at the end. So don't worry about what you don't pick.
And the F on the list is for all face cards together, yeah?
Okay, I'm going to get started with introductions. I'll start with my character first, and we'll work across here to tell you what kind of you want to be thinking and listening for other characters. After we do these introductions, we're each going to come up with a disagreement that we have with another player. And it's usually based around what they believe, what their reason is for winning, their background, all of those things. So you'll want to do that. And then you'll also want to come up with a particular character that you know a secret about. You don't have to necessarily decide what that secret is right now. But you should choose a different person than the person that you choose to disagree with. So you'll have like two connections, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through that. Those will actually have a mechanical effect that we want to utilize. I'll talk about later. So my character is Dr. Tarot, and that's the way I'm going to say Tarot for this. And I chose Sorcerer, who's known as an unreliable trickster, who is passionate about freedom, and his kind of has come to be in this for the fame, for the glory. That's their backstory. They are a person who had a chaos being bound into their body, essentially to stop it from being a villainous foe, to change it into something else and make it a defender of humanity. And it used to be one of those sort of Bruce Banner Hulk situations where they change back and forth, but over time, the sort of Dr. Tarot chaos being is more and more present. I imagine that all of their magic has that sort of, card look to them. It appears that way and spins around. And they probably have thinning hair at this point. Maybe 10 years ago, they used to be pretty hot, but the magic has kind of worn them out. And I think that in the first few days of this battle, when we were kind of overwhelmed by our foe, the Morphomagus, that I essentially caused a huge amount of collateral damage and destruction, diverting the foe from one area to another. And I haven't talked about it, but that's hanging in the back of my mind. And I believe strongly that super beings actually just want to control the world, that they are dangerous, and that's probably more from the original human self, maybe a little bit of the belief of this Dr. Tarot being, but that they're kind of bad in some ways. So that's who my character is. David?
Yeah, so I am going to be playing the superhero Firebrand. Firebrand is a bearer of a power not his own. In specific, he carries a powerful magical artifact known as the Flame of Prometheus, which is a kind of focus for the kind of combined sort of ideal of human potential and so on and so forth. People know him as a bold and inspiring leader. He is passionate about social justice and values heroism. Specifically, in this case, sort of the idea of people sort of standing up for what they believe in and making a stand and that sort of thing. So yeah, his origin was as the his name is Del Dashwood. He was a human rights lawyer working in San Francisco, or based out of San Francisco. He was chosen to be the next bearer of the Flame of Prometheus by its previous owner. He has to win tomorrow because he carries the hopes and dreams of humanity and cannot let them be destroyed. He believes strongly that we can only beat our adversary in unity. Yeah, and I think that is Del. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I should say he sort of physically he's a kind of he's a black man, probably in his 30s, early to mid 30s, that sort of area. He in his sort of day clothes, dresses quite nicely in suits, has sort of dreadlocks pulled back into a neat ponytail. He wears a sort of very classic lycra superhero suit as Firebrand. And unsurprisingly has lots of sort of fiery type powers. But you know, he can sort of do the like healing flame as well as the flame that harms and that sort of thing.
And I should have said for myself, pronouns he, him for Firebrand.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I should put pronouns on the sheet. I didn't do that. Awesome. Leah.
All right, so my hero is Ironbound, or Stacy Sawyer, she, her. She's a former firefighter who gained her powers when she was rescuing scientists from a burning and volatile and probably illegal lab. And so her overall look is kind of, I'm thinking a little bit the Iron Giant, a little bit, the Thing, but she went into this dangerous lab, in a full firefighter regalia, and now she's just like larger, and there's, there's the suggestion of the tank still, there's kind of a metal coating. And plus in, our various battles, like someone throws like a car at her, like sometimes it takes her a while to notice that there's still like a piece of the bumper or a bit of headlight somewhere. And sometimes she likes it. It's hard to find clothes that fit. So, if your enemy throws something at you and it's kind of decorative, why not keep it? That's her overall look. She's scrolling down to the other guys. So, as you can kind of hear, she is a invulnerable tank who is a former sidekick, just in that, she's always worked on being a hero, but in a more normal civilian way. And so when she, gained all these powers, I think she apprenticed herself to a more established hero. I haven't come up with a name, but I'm thinking the kind of person who is more like flying, Wheaties box person, right? But who took her under her wing to just kind of mentor her as a hero, even though their styles were very different. And so, not a sidekick forever, now in the big leagues with all you guys, passionate about morality, valuing honesty. Because, if you're not honest with each other, you're going to get yourselves hurt or killed. And she believes we'll only lose if we lose hope. We're ready for this, but we have to win because we're all that's standing between the world and this threat. It's given to us to hold the line.
Nice. Stephen.
Hi, my name is Stephen, and I use the pronouns he, him. Today I'm playing Night Leap, who also uses the pronouns he, him. I am going a little bit more dark, so if anyone has any problems with this, I can switch things up. I'm playing an allied villain, who is a reformed assassin. I'm passionate about destiny, and I value identity. I was an orphan raised by villains who thought they were on the right side until Morphomagus destroyed my home and the base of villains. So my home is gone. I don't remember if I said names. My hero name is Night Leap, and my real name is Liam O'Neill. And I think that let's see. I want to win tomorrow because I must make up for my past transgressions. and I believe strongly in redemption.
So what do they look like?
Oh, so I'm gathering pictures right now.
Oh.
So let me pop a picture in. I think that whenever his powers manifest, he looks like a normal person. I think that whenever his powers manifest, he looks like shadow. His powers are to hide in shadow and to teleport through shadows, pass through solid objects, and make shadows solid. Yeah.
I'm curious if you believe, you're into destiny. What does that mean to you?
What that means is that you have the choice to make your own destiny, and not that you can only, uh, not that everything is predetermined for you.
Excellent. So now we're going to go back around, and we're each going to pick somebody to have a disagreement with, and I think that I'm going to start here with. I think that I'm going to put the name in here, and I'll write in the text later. Basically, that honesty is not the best policy. That Ironbound is wrong. That is better to lie about how you feel to protect yourself, and you often have to lie to protect others. They don't have to know the truth about everything, and that honesty is just is too much. A little deception goes a long way. So I think I'm going to take that for my disagreement there. David, have a thought about what you might want to do for your disagreement?
Yeah, I think that I think there is an extent to which Firebrand does disagree with Dr. Taro's belief, but not entirely. I think he thinks that Dr. Taro has a point there. I think the one that's more interesting is that I think that Firebrand disagrees with Nightleap's belief in redemption. It's I think the idea I think more with this is that he believes that if you have done bad things, then you should make reparation for them, but making reparation for them doesn't stop you from being the person who did those things, doesn't make you inherently a good person to the extent that you could even describe someone as a good. And I think that's his big disagreement with Nightleap's perhaps take, or his take on Nightleap's take on redemption, is that sure, it's good to go out and do the work, but fundamentally, you have to live with the things you've done.
Nice. Leah, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I also have a disagreement about redemption, but it's with Dr. Tarot, I think, which is the sense that you have to atone tomorrow for the earlier destruction. This is just more of Dr. Tarot's kind of sleight of hand thinking about everything. It's not to say you can knock over a few buildings here and then rescue a school bus there and they cancel out. Each decision is its own decision, and you can't be stacking up your acts against each other.
Oh, nice. Stephen, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that I think it's too simplistic to say hope will help us win the day tomorrow. We just saw a great sacrifice that was necessary in order to do a small amount of protection for our base. I think that hope won't save us. It will take sacrifice and tears.
So that hope is a little frivolous.
Not frivolous. Hope doesn't have any bearing on this.
Oh, interesting. So
yeah, I really like having your darker character alongside my like let's go team one.
Okay, good.
And we're going to go the other direction back, and you don't have to define the secret now, but you put it in. Let me talk briefly about why we have the disagreements and the secrets. The disagreements and the secrets, when we do flashbacks or interactions in scenes, if you can bring those up and kind of reveal them and bring them to the fore, maybe not resolve them, then you'll get to mark that checkbox by them. That's a point of destiny. That allows you to swap some cards in the end game. So that's what those do. The secret is one that that you're going to possibly reveal in play to the other character in a moment that transforms maybe who they are, their understanding of who they are. And again, that's one we'll definitely want to check in on to make sure that gels with their conception. And that's, again, when that comes up, you'll mark a point of destiny. So that's what's going to be done. Stephen Nightleap, who do you want to know a secret about? Don't have to decide what it is, but who do you want to know? You've already got Ironbound, so it's be one of David or I.
I will choose Firebrand.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Leah, who do you want to know a secret about?
I think I'll pick our assassin, Nightleap.
Nice. And then David, who do you want to know a secret about?
Right. I will go for I guess I will go for, both are interesting, but I think I'm going to go for Ironbound.
Okay. And then I think I'm also going to take Nightleap as my. So we have a double secret life there. He's the reformed assassin. There's got to be like a whole host of secrets there, right? So. All right, so that takes us.
Oh,
yes.
I'm just wondering. No, yeah, I'm going to go for Ironbound. Yeah, sorry, that was
So crazy because I have no secrets.
Yes. So we're going to take a break here. And when we come back, I'll talk about the play structure and we'll get rolling. It's about 4 till. So let's go to 5 actors, like a 9-minute break. And then we'll come back. Sound good? Okay. Here we go. So we have our characters. We have a sense of what's going on. We're going to move to essentially the night before, when we know the big battle is coming, and we'll talk a little bit. We'll do a little bit of set dressing here before we go into it. But I want to talk about what the structure of this is going to be. So if you'll notice, I'm playing cards.io. I have dealt everyone 1 card. You can go ahead and take that card into your hand from your position, and you can look at it face up. What's going to happen as we go through play is we're going to start, in the present time. We'll set some scenes. Yes.
I actually don't see that. I see that I still have my 8 cards.
Ditto.
Oh, okay.
Huh. Try refreshing and see what happens.
I just did refresh, thinking, oh, everyone else must be seeing this and I'm not.
Huh. Let me refresh my thing and see what it's telling me. Oh yeah, now it's still showing those 8 cards. Why is it doing that? Let me recall and shuffle all. Recall all, shuffle. Okay, do you have your cards still?
No.
Okay, so now I'm going to deal a card to everyone.
Yeah, this is working now for me.
Okay, it must have gone into like a, because we hadn't used it for a bit, it came into a mode. So you'll look at that card, you'll have that card there for yourself. What's going to happen is we'll be playing out in the sort of the modern period. The usual play will kind of set scenes. At any point, someone can ask a question. We're asking a sort of a meta question about the scene, why did somebody do something, what happened in the past, that kind of thing, related to, or branching off from what we're seeing in that conversation. And then we'll flash back to that. And imagine we're a little bit like a TV flashback. We want to cut in maybe 2 to 5 minutes on the flashback. And then kind of somebody says cut, and we pop back to the present, and we can kind of frame it as somebody asking a question, about that, or related, drawing out. We'll to kind of give it some context. This is where we can pop disagreements on the table. It's where we can pop secrets on the table. The mechanical step that's going to happen is when you go, ooh, I have a question, you will draw a card, and you will give it to the person who you're asking the question of. So you'll give it to them face up. Everybody gets to see the card. And that means that person will have one card in front of them. Later, when we all have cards in front of us, when you draw the card, you can choose to give them that card that you just drew, or you can give them one of your cards in front of you instead and take that card into your hand. And a round is going to be marked at the point at which each of us have an equal number of cards in front of us. Now, depending on the time, how we do things, because eventually we want to get to 5 total cards, I may deal out another one when we see how timing goes, how speed goes on this. Why are those cards important? Those cards are important because at the end, if you have more black cards than red cards, you survive and have to deal with the consequences. And if you have more red cards, your character passes away. And we would kind of deal with the memoriam of that. And then lastly, once all of that is done, all that is said and done, each of us is going to hand one of our remaining cards, David knows this process, into the center. So we'll have 4 cards. We'll shuffle those 4 cards. We'll kind of randomize those as best I can. And then we'll draw one. And that will tell us whether we win or lose. So that's how that goes. The other important thing is, as we're putting cards on the table, as we're drawing these out, anytime we draw a face card, that's when we're going to put a check mark on that endgame list. That'll show us how far the enemy gets in before we get to the end. So there's a little bit of randomness there. And we'll give David a minute here. When I did this at Gen Con, I had a group of solid people all into it, and one person who was very clearly Dungeon Crawl Classics was their speed. They had all the stuff with them, and they were how do I put this? Very much not in the yes and mode for play. If it comes to like a hard disagreement, like we can't resolve narratively between 2 players about what happens, there is a question set and then a card draw system to resolve that. But I think we're all comfortable players with one another checking in, so I don't think that'll be an issue.
That sounds like it might be a challenge, Lowell.
Yeah, now that I said that. Yes. David says his internet just fell over. He's trying to get back in. Used to have that a lot more. And then I had AT&T come out, and we went down the basement in this old house and discovered that there were dozens of wires all connected, like multiple phone lines all in there that were doing nothing.
We had the same problem. Our internet went out, and it turns out someone had unplugged the relevant basement thing. But it took me a while to figure that out because I was, sorry, darling, would you put some milk in the coffee? I was on the phone with the AT&T guy, and he's, I'm looking at the thing. It says it's the router. And, he's describing features I didn't see. And it turns out it was an old one that was connected to nothing, but still had wires coming out of it. And, he's like, you have to look for the button that does this. I'm like, I'm staring right at it.
And they never believe you.
Yeah.
The real one was in the ceiling, which is not a place I was thinking of looking for the guy.
I had, back in college, this was back in the days of modems, I was talking to someone who had just gotten a very high-speed modem. And we were looking at stuff, and he was getting great connection speeds. He was having no problems, and I was having problems. So we were trying to diagnose what it was. And I followed his phone line, and his phone line is just a few wires, and it went out of his basement, outside under his front porch and then back in. So I went and looked under his front porch, and literally there was a spot where the wires were separate and bare wire connected to a rusty nail, and then the other side of the wire connected to that rusty nail in the open outdoors under his front porch.
Oh my gosh.
And he was still getting a great connection. And I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with my stuff then. Yeah. If you can connect through a rusty nail, then
what was the logic of setting it up that way, I wonder?
Oh, he didn't do it. It was a rental house, and it was just a phone line, right? So
yeah, but still someone made that choice, right?
Yeah.
I've known some cable installer people, and that does not surprise me. It's wild.
I mean, you do what you have to get it done, right?
Right.
Yeah, I just feel like you have a big set of tools to prevent that from being the way you have to splice wire.
Yeah. But if it was easier.
So, Lowell, you said you'd run this at conventions before. How many times have you run it?
I think 3 times.
Was it always comic based?
No, I did the classic fantasy one that it's originally on.
Okay.
Which I also quite like, because it has a lot of variation to it. It could be, Final Fantasy or more classic. Hey, David.
Hey, yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. So I was talking with them about at the end how we shuffle everything together and see whether we win or lose. So that is the big thing. So let's go ahead and kind of roll into this, and let's start with some scene dressing here. So Leah, this base, this Guardian Prime, when the camera comes in on the outside or the inside, what is something that we see? Oh, see, I didn't ask Stephen because I saw Stephen eat something. I didn't realize.
I think yeah, we said that's kind of cliffside over a city, right? So, there's a fair number of different antennae, most of which are fairly functional, for keeping track of trouble. I think in honor of the wiring story we were just telling, we panned past one that clearly was destroyed in a recent battle, and it's just struts connected with dowels and duct tape, but mostly it looks like a pretty professional operation. And there's just the sense of here we are perched over the city watching over it.
Awesome. And Stephen, what's another thing that we see external, internal as we come in here? Something that tells us about what's going on.
I think we see the traditional big wall of televisions, the big wall of screens, so you can, and they each have a different view of different things. Some of them obviously aren't of this part of the world, and they constantly switch to keep track of things.
And David, what's another thing here?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of got what these like big sort of modernist like garden bits around it, and it's all quite, it's got that sort of Silicon Valley HQ aesthetic going on. But like currently there are like sort of like emergency tents up everywhere, sort of stretchers around, lots of sort of emergency responders and stuff, as this is obviously being used as a sort of evacuation point for people.
So we've got a sense that there are other people around. I like the idea that we've kind of opened up a portion of the base. Maybe the vehicle bay is open and some of that's kind of flooded into there. I was also thinking that when we do actually come into the base, that we see a lot of rooms that have clearly been unused. The covered furniture. Because we're reuniting. We haven't used this for a while. There's a lot of that sort of old trophy room kind of thing. Maybe we linger on some pictures that might be of that super team that sacrificed themselves for us to be here. So we got that sense of that. So what we'll do is we'll kind of go around and we'll call scenes, and anybody can jump in to ask a question on that. So I'll go ahead and start just to jump in. So Firebrand, where are you at?
Yeah, I think Firebrand is stood in front of like this big bank of monitors as they're sort of flicking between different scenes, and we can kind of see that like his eyes sort of moving quickly backwards and forwards between them as he's he's obviously taking in what's going on. He's got like like an earphone in, and he's kind of obviously like quickly switching between different channels, directing people at various points, and so on as sort of these rescue efforts and so on are going on around the globe.
And I think that you'll see Dr. Thoreau come in. He's got like a big duffel bag that he'll drop on our oddly shaped meeting table that we've got there, and I'm rummaging through it, and I'll kind of look up and nothing's going to change between now and tomorrow.
And there'll be that pause where he obviously just finishes off what the sort of conversation he was having, but then he'll pat the sort of a woman in a sort of in a uniform stood nearby, and he just sort of pats her on the shoulder, and she obviously like takes over doing whatever he was doing, and saying, "Well, I guess it's more of Ironbound's thing, but I've just been trying to put out the few fires I can while I still can."
You're just gonna wind yourself up. Just got to get ready for tomorrow. You can't be stressed out for it.
You know me, Doctor. I'd be more stressed if I was sat here doing nothing.
And is it helping?
Yes. maybe just me, but it's helping.
You say that, but I'm not hearing it.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard on everyone, but so much fear and panic and death around the world. It's hard. It's hard to take in.
I'm going to actually push for a flashback here. And I'm going to draw a card, flip it over, and I'm going to hand it. You're south, David?
That's right. Yep.
So I'm going to give you this. There's 4 clubs over in your area there. Can you see that?
Sorry, if I can find the right tab. Yes, I can. Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
So here's my question is, you've just mentioned fear and panic and all of that. What is the loss that you're actually thinking of? What is the specific moment?
Yeah. I think we kind of get a flashback to. I think it's one of the big this sort of the big superhero team that was that was taken down, stalling the initial invasion, and I think there is the sort of moment where a big, like, I'm sort of thinking a kind of Superman-esque hero. I think they are called I think they're just called Paragon. They are, or they were a kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, I suppose a sort of android from another time and place who had come to Earth and served as a hero. They were sort of we kind of get that moment where they are sort of facing off against the Morphomagus, and we sort of get that point of view of them, kind of, and it looks very like cinematic and sort of standing up to this force. But then we kind of switch back and we see that same image on like TVs around the world, and sort of people are like glued to their screens watching it. And then there's just that moment where the air sort of roils around them, and there's like a colossal barrage of lightning strikes Paragon, and there's sort of sparks fly off of them, smoke streams out, they just plummet down towards the ground, and sort of the camera like follows them, and sort of as the that sort of wave of shock echoes around the world, we just see we kind of see a shot of Firebrand is sort of dealing with some of the hive mind troops of Morphomagus, and we just see that the fire in the sort of big torch that he carries just gutters for a moment.
Oh, nice. We kind of cut to me, saying, what difference does it make?
It makes all the difference. If we can't see a way to win this, we can't hope to win it. So we need to make this count. Yeah.
So I think we cut there. And one of the things, there's a couple ways to do flashbacks. You can do a nice narrative thing, or you can do flashbacks of interactions with people. It's up to you how you want to frame that. So David, do you want to call the scene?
Yeah, sure thing. I think, I think I'd like to see. I'd like to see what Nightleap is doing as in sort of preparation for what we have ahead of us.
So I think Nightleap is. Did you have more that you wanted to set up?
No, I think that's I think that's it. I'm interested to see where you come what we see of you, and then I'll
My
see-
hope
see
is
where
to
we go from
barge
there.
in at some point.
Yeah, no, that would be cool actually. Yeah.
So I think that Nightleap is actually outside in that garden area that you described with the tents, and is kind of staying separate from the rest of everyone, and is a little tentative. And at some point, he steps out and he looks around and sees there's nothing he can do here, and he walks towards the big grand entrance of the headquarters, and he feels very, you can see this wide zoom in the camera as he seems very small as he approaches these doors, and he opens them, and you see this tentative step as he steps inside, and almost as if he's expecting alarms to go off, right? And he steps inside, and we see the big wall of flickering images inside with Dr. Taro and Firebrand standing there having a conversation. And he kind of steps off to the side and looks around to see where he can be unobtrusive, and where he can uh, uh, stay out of everyone's way. Now, I think, Dr. Taro, you mentioned putting a big duffel bag there on the table. Yeah. So I think that, he looks around, he doesn't see anything. I think he awkwardly fiddles with some of the, things that are on the table, but he doesn't want to touch too much, over on the side. And then he walks up to that big table and just unzips the duffel bag.
Oh, Lee, muted.
I think the second your fingertips touch the zipper, like for a moment, like it's all of Ironbound just looming over you. And it definitely looks like, Nightleaf has been caught, right? Like somehow, and probably feels that way to him. And then like we get the fuller pan, and Ironbound is holding like a cat. And goes like, well, I figured there wasn't much else to do tonight. So it looks like, and Chester at the cat is microchipped, so but I thought so. It's the Samuels's cat again, was in a tree, but Nightleap, I thought you could return it since you can move more quickly than I can.
Well, certainly. What's the point of returning the cat? I mean, they could be dead tomorrow.
Don't you think they want the cat tonight then?
Okay. I'll return it to them tonight. But we should have some discussions about doing the right things at the right time. I think we should be preparing. Are you ready for tomorrow?
Thank you. Ironbound like looks a little huffy, which kind of involves like creaking noises as like various metal parts of her shift as she kind of bristles a little and goes, I'm ready for tomorrow because I've spent, and she's kind of exaggerated a bit, like years taking care of small things, of cats, of everything else, of honing my instincts to look for the vulnerable and safeguard them. Nightleap, I just think this might be the first cat you've ever saved. You didn't come up the way the rest of us did, but it's not too late to start now. I hand you the cat, who is not like a totally friendly cat, to be clear.
I think it kind of growls and kind of starts, pawing a little bit as Nightleap uncomfortably holds it and is like, okay. And who does this cat belong to?
It's the Jenkins's cat. I'd rather you go since you're faster, and Mom said she was a little tired of it being returned at this point if people weren't going to keep the doors closed, so I technically shouldn't be the one bringing it back this time.
So I think that we see Nightleap kind of take the cat and turn, and as he turns, like this shadow passes across, almost as if he's shifting to black and white, or something like that, and then it becomes full blackness, and he walks off into the corner where there's a deep shadow, and he steps through it and is gone. And then a few moments later, we see him step back out of that shadow, but in the process of doing so, we hear some cat yowling, and people screaming a little bit, like, this is crazy, what happened? And
I think as you go into the shadow, I do want to ask for a flashback from you, Nightleap, because I have a question, which is kind of, are there moments in your assassin's career where you had the choice about whether to show mercy to, some kind of creature, not necessarily an animal, that was just in your way as you went?
ooh yeah, so
And just to check mechanically, in the card room, what I'm doing when I ask for this is
drag a card over to north and click on it to flip it over.
all right, there we go.
and isn't there mechanically a choice she can give that card to me or swap it for one in her hand?
One that's on the table. So this first round you'll just be giving cards. After this, you'll be able to swap.
Okay. And I think what we see is Nightleap. And I think we can see there's a little bit more of a nefarious aspect to him from the music and the scene, the darkness that's in the scene and the shots. And he's obviously sneaking up on a target, and he's headed in, and we hear some laughter through a window, and he's paying attention and, hiding in the shadows. And I think we see a dog, like a stray dog, come down the sidewalk, and it starts to bark at him, and he looks at it a little bit differently, and then kind of cocks his head, and then moves around to the other side, and the dog comes and sniffs around where he was, and then starts barking at him again. And you see he kind of raises his hand, and the shard of shadow appears, and it starts to come up. And I think that's whenever the dog kind of cocks its head and looks at him, and kind of we see this goofy tongue kind of roll out of the dog, and it kind of pants a little bit. And then Nightleap, we see Nightleap step back from the dog and out of the shadow, and the dog just kind of and is gone. And the dog just kind of sits there for a second and then trots on down the sidewalk, and then we see Nightleap step back out of the shadow.
Nice.
And then we're back to present. And I think there's this howling going on from the cat and from the owners. They weren't expecting someone just to kind of step out, hand their cat, and leave. And Nightleap's uncomfortable with the process of talking to people and explaining what happened. So I think we hear this surprise and this cat howling as he steps back out of the shadow, and then it kind of thins and goes quiet. And he returns back to Ironbound and says, I'm not sure they were too happy with the Jenkins were too happy with the return of the cat.
I clap you on the back in that like way too hard hero way and go, well, it's your first cat return, have a better time next time, but good work, hero.
Is that the way it normally works?
It's the Jenkinses of late. Yes.
And I think as there's that pause, I think Dr. Thoreau gestures, and there's the card image, and that duffel bag comes sliding across the table out of your reach over to where he's at, and he's like, "Yeah, good job, hero." Who wants to just move forward, call scenes, however you want to do it? I think that I'm going to take this duffel bag and clearly conspiratorially go somewhere else to go through it. Like, I clearly don't want people to necessarily see what's in it, kind of thing.
I think honestly, I just follow you. I think with Iron Man, it's always a little hard to tell if she's ever being underhanded or just aggressively friendly and goes, and what have you got there, Dr. Tarot?
Well, I was just going through the base to see if there was anything useful.
What did you find?
Kind of pause. What kind of room do you think we stop in?
Training room, surely. Those are
Yeah.
always good rooms.
And
Is this
yeah, and I think we get that unzipping of the duffel bag, and like it's filled with all of the like captured villain weapons and materials and all of that stuff, taken off the trophy case, and clearly looking at how to put power cells into things
thought you
and stuff.
deactivated these?
They are at this moment deactivated, but I'm planning on reactivating them. Pulls up like a big weird laser rifle thing and is doing something, and then we'll see the lights do on it.
What were you point that thing?
Whoa. No. I just thought that maybe we could distribute out some of the less mm, uh, generally destructive weapons to some of the people outside. We're going to need all the help we can get.
These aren't like normal guns. These are very dangerous. We'd have to be tracking down the people we gave them to afterwards. And I like gesture to one that I think, like, in contrast to the big gun, is like a little tiny Derringer. I'm like, you've got the life force channeler right there. Were you planning to explain how that works to the person you handed it to?
Not entirely. I mean, they don't need to know about every single property of this demonic gun. Just enough to be able to use it against the Morphomagus.
I think, like, again, like, I'm drawing myself up to my full height, and say, the Morphomagus is a grave threat, but that hive mind, everyone's in agreement and full knowledge of what they're doing, even when they attack us. Are you going to fall short of that as you muster our own defenses?
What do you mean by that?
I don't want to think that the Morphomagus is being a better team than we are. We're not keeping secrets from each other, are we?
I don't think we're keeping secrets. I've just told you what I'm going to go do. I haven't. I mean, people outside, they're going to be fighting for their lives tomorrow, and I should give them, what is it you call it? Hope?
I think so. Can I insert myself?
Yeah.
So I think that during this conversation, whenever the conversation turns to secrets, I think we at first see a, Nightly kind of poke his head around the door as he hears this conversation. And then I think in one of the corners, there's a shadow and we see these eyes open up. And he's listening. And I think whenever you say something about giving these people hope, right, with the Morphomegas, whenever he comes through, I think that's when Nightleap steps out and he says, hope won't fix any of this. It takes we have to do the hard work ourselves, and this is something that I've more recently come to learn. And I think he actually reaches inside the duffel bag and he comes out with, let's call this a doomsday device, right? This is very bad. And
I wasn't going to give them that.
he kind of looks at it and he says, it might be necessary if the Morphomagus overcomes us, that this might be enough to take him and his group out.
I don't think it's going to come to that, and that's really not a decision that we can make for everyone, Nightleap.
Don't you think we've already made decisions for everyone?
I think I'd like to I actually, because I was thinking, because you've already been asked one this time, so I'm actually going to ask, sorry, Ironbound. What was the, who was the person you couldn't save that you still feel guiltiest about?
Mm.
Yeah, that's legit. All right. Deal me a card.
Yeah, sure thing. So, is it? Sorry, just to refresh myself, because I think that was when I cut out. Is it? I draw one card and then I can either choose to give that one or the card in front of me to.
No, on this round, you can
right.
just give the card.
Cool. No worries. Perfect. And you are east, aren't you? Cool.
Yeah, I think we cut to our first view in this story, really, of Ironbound before she had her powers, just as a normal firefighter. And that there's, one of those kind of really serious railway, kind of chemical spill, derailed train, like big disaster, lots of different kinds of people working there. And at first, this looks like a real triumph as she's kind of plucking people out of the train. And, we actually see it almost like as a little montage. And she's a very like 4-color hero. So it's like, dramatic, like open bang cuts, right? Like between pulling people out and like we've gotten past the disaster and there's even a recognition at the city. So it looks like everyone has been saved. But as she's walking back through the disaster area, we just see how like pocked the whole landscape is and that there's a lake that's like just completely dead now. And that we kind of see the seasons change, that she keeps going back and occasionally trying to plant things, but that there's just this permanent scar on the landscape. And even though she did her job as a firefighter, the ripples of what was done here are much harder to fix, and that there was just no way to pull a single person out of danger to save this place. But she keeps going, and every spring is like turning up with bulbs in the hopes that this year they're going to sprout.
Awesome, thank you.
I think the cutback maybe is I'm like, well, this one, it has a little bit of collateral damage, but we can deal with that later. And someone else should frame the scene or move it forward. I'm still kind of going through the stuff there. Who wants to lead?
I'll take a lead. And I see it's the sun is set outside, so it's dark, and the lights have been turned off inside the headquarters. And I think that we see Firebrand. If I'm not mistaken, Firebrand, you were in front of the TVs. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
I think you're still there looking at them, and they're flickering, and it's almost like a campfire, in the darkness. And Nightleap steps up beside you and kind of puts a hand on your shoulder, which is a little bit startling, and says, have you been able to find the Morphomagus and his army yet?
Yes, they're not making much of an effort to hide themselves, and he'll kind of tap a few buttons on the control, and a few screens will kind of light up, or will shift image, But we'll. I think finding them won't be the hard part. It's what comes next that's the trick.
What do you think comes next?
We have to stop. We have to stop them. There's no other alternative. If we get away from it, if we walk away from it, I don't think we'll all be back here tomorrow night.
Do you think that this is where we'll make our last stand? Here? Is this the right place?
I think so.
I'd feel a little better if we could draw them out somewhere farther from our city.
You know, they're going to come after us one way or the other, and there's no place that's safe.
And we have to, I think, kind of floating in, we have to protect the weapon. We don't know exactly how it's going to be used. We still got to figure out the last of that. And I don't think we can do that on the run.
I think you're probably the best person. Have you gotten much more information out of what the techno box is?
I think there's a pause. Like that clearly not going to tell you everything. Pause. It's some I've got the computer working on it right now. Maybe a look over at Firebrand and Ironbound, and like almost then maybe if there's something doesn't want to say it in front of Nightleap. So still working on that.
I think I'd like to ask for a flashback.
Okay.
Dr. Tarot, with the superhero group that sacrificed themselves, this was recently, like yesterday, right? Or something like that.
Within the last, I think the last couple days. Probably including Ironbound's mentor.
Yeah, that's legit.
I was going to say, who were you closest to that we lost?
I think we will do a flashback actually to clearly the techno gadgeteer, like vigilante type, maybe Blue Beetle or something like that kind of style character. And maybe it's the first time we've seen the techno organic thing on screen, and he's working on it, and I'm like, so is it going to work? To figure out how it's operating. Have you got anything out of it yet, Toy Box? And anybody can jump in to play the other character if you want.
So Toy Box says, it will take very little time for me to figure this out. I just need for you to hold them off long enough for me to be able to get through this.
I think this is maybe not the smartest way to go about this. Let's just get it back to the base, and we can work on it there. I mean, Paragon and the others are outside fighting right now. Let's sneak away.
They'll expect it at the base. Here, they don't know that it's located here, and we have enough time to figure out how to use it to defeat them.
Well, then, and again, clearly, like, I think we need to go. I think we need to go now.
May I narrate something, even though it's your flashback?
Yeah.
So can you describe how you get away with the box and Toy Box doesn't?
I think it's that maybe we're in the midst of that conversation when the ceiling gives way, crashes, and we see, we've already described Paragon come crashing down to the ground. I think that will explode out. And I think we see Toy Box go flying, and my first impulse is to run to Toy Box, but I look at the device and grab it and fly away and leave him.
And I think behind you we see this mass of the army kind of come through in the destroyed building where you were and kind of overrun it.
Nice. You should give me a card.
Okay. And you are west?
West. First red on the table there. Let's come back to Leah. Do you want to set a scene?
Yeah, I think maybe as we're going over defenses or prepping things, I just want to kind of jump ahead a little where we are all looking at the techno box, right? Like, and let's even say like it's been an hour, before we're like, okay, so what is up with this? What have you been doing to it, Dr. Tarot? Like, to try and get it to do the things we need it to do.
I imagine that we see like the various glyphs and images, Doctor Strange style around it. And there's probably a moment when he kind of stops. Well, he's realized something and then continues on, and we'll see like on one of the screens on this thing. So I imagine it sort of looks like a bomb with a screen thing. We maybe start seeing some images on that. It's all sort of magic-y stuff, and I'm concentrating beads of sweat, trying to figure this out. This is clearly not his forte.
Great for us. Yeah, I think Ironbound, possibly with the others, like we've been doing the bit where we wait outside the door, like whispering for a bit before finally deciding to check on you. Does that sound reasonable to you
Yeah.
other guys? And then are kind of all peeping around the door in varying degrees of subtlety and kindness, and saying, do you have a sense of when it'll be working?
And I kind of stop and say, some of it is self-advancing. I think for the moment we have to let it adapt and come up, and then I can have another run at it. But I need to talk to Nightleap for a
You
bit.
might need to sleep, Ironbound says, but she looks inclined to give you the room if you want it, if you're waiting for it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think Ironbound, you actually have to come find me to take me to Dr. Tarot.
Legit.
And I'm very skittish, but you seem to have been the nicest towards me, which is very good. And so I follow you back to where Dr. Tarot is.
Yeah, I say like, found Nightleap, but I do think at some point you should rest if that's working, on reformulate itself. You need to too. That's how we do it.
Absolutely. You are so right. And just give me a few minutes. I need you to go check the West Quadrant. I'm going to have a few words with Nightleap, and then, shut eye. Such shut eye I'm going to have.
I start
Delightful.
heading out, and then I like poke my head back in one more time and say like, and I don't want you thinking about going into the cabinet to take the stimulants we got from Dr. Speed. You remember what happened last time? That was not worth it.
Absolutely not. The pocketing. This hadn't even occurred to me.
Thunk, thunk, thunk.
Nightleap. I need to tell you something, and I need you to consider it in confidence.
I'm good
Can
with
you?
secrets.
Pardon?
I'm good with secrets.
I know. That's why I wanted to talk to you. So, two things. One, it's going to take two of us to activate this thing when we need to do that. I don't know what the consequences are going to be for us when we do that. But it'll definitely destroy the bomb, which is sentient.
How do you know this? How do you know that it's sentient?
Because it woke up while I was doing my stuff. I've I don't think the others will realize it for a while, but I may need your help when it comes time to follow through on this.
Have you discussed this with the box?
No. Is that a problem?
I
Because
know a
I
few.
can't imagine it'd be a problem for you.
Well, I know a few things about being used, and I think it's important that even though this being doesn't look like us, it be presented with its chance to be a hero. Don't you agree?
I agree. That sounds great in principle.
It sounds like to me that maybe some of your views indicate that you would be better off with my former team than with this one.
I don't think so, because your former team went down faster than mine did.
Very true, but very true. But what you're describing is the kind of thing that they would do and might lead to our downfall. If you don't know much about this sentient, mysterious box, how do you know it will function for you correctly if it decides not to?
Because I'm a wizard. And I kind of raise my hands like that settles everything. And I walk away like clearly angry and upset. David, Leah, either one of you want to set a scene?
Before we
Oh,
go to the
yeah,
next scene,
yeah.
I have a mechanical question.
Oh, yeah.
So we have these disagreements and secrets. How do we pull those in?
Do you think that we've hit on one of those? Do you think?
I didn't see that we had.
Okay.
I'm curious if we need to start angling in that direction.
Yeah, I think, and it doesn't have to be like sharp, like destructive, but I think if we encounter and we're wrestling with it, I think that's the point to mark that.
Okay.
Like we've got the hope thing on the table. We can certainly follow up on that to deal with Ironbound's disagreement and such.
You have a secret towards me, and I wasn't certain if that was something you wanted to bring in.
Not quite
yet?
Not yet,
Okay.
but
You have some ideas?
I have some ideas.
Good. Okay.
Why don't we actually let's take 5 here, and then we'll continue on, and we'll see where we are. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, I think I will frame a scene. I think it's dark. Sort of starting to get dark properly now outside, and Firebrand is out there, sort of going amongst the tents, helping heal some of the injured folk who've been brought here. And I wonder if maybe Ironbound is also doing similar, or at least overseeing things out here. Sorry, I shouldn't have asked you in mid apple, but
I'm up for that.
Awesome. And I think Firebrand will kind of come up to Ironbound, and he's clearly looking like a bit worn out, but says, how are you holding up, Ironbound?
I'm all right for now. I don't know about the rest of you. I do plan to sleep at some point tonight. There's a limit to how much we can prepare. It's how much we just need to be who we are.
Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna try and I'm gonna try and sleep, but yeah.
Do you think there's anything you can do with your fire? I know the weird magic box. Look, it's not really my thing to begin with, and it's not really human, but you're all about finding the best of the strength of people. Is there anything you can do to kind of help it be the best it can be to help us?
Maybe I could give it a try, certainly. Or I think I could. That might not be a bad plan. Thanks, Ironbound. Look, of all of us, you're the one that's most likely to come out of this alive. If I fall, I want you to, and if you can manage it without jeopardizing what we're trying to do, if you could get the torch out and to someone, that would be, it would mean a lot to me, to knowing that you'd be willing to do that.
Yeah, and I think there's really only a moment's pause in it, just to kind of give this the gravity it deserves. But Ironbound does dangerous things, and she takes this request totally seriously.
I'd like to ask a question. This is sort of a parallel thing. What did your mentor ask you in a similar way before they went out? I'll grab a card.
Yeah.
I'll flip it over. Okay, I'll go ahead and hand you that king. You can have that king. There you go. And I will
nice of you.
click one box on our Endgame tick.
Yeah, I think what we see is kind of in the midst of a different battle. It wasn't even asked directly, that my mentor was too busy, like in the thick of the battle, that sent the resident speedster of that team, and gave me the keys to that major team's communications array. And the speedster was kind of apologetic because my mentor's kind of blunt, but and said, look, like, did we name this person already, or did someone else come up with this? I think just like it's literally a name like Supremo, right? Like, you know, uh, Supremo says, she wants you to have this. She might not be there when I get back, but she said you focus too much on the little picture, and you and your team need to be willing to reach everyone and see what happens. But don't get too focused on the person in front of you. Like, you may not have, I'm like, kind of like, I'm sorry, like the ability to take her perspective from up above, but this will help you. I've got to go back. It might be back in time. So that's what I got from my mentor, that we have access to their satellite communications array to reach every screen in the world. And I think thinking of that in the moment back where we are, I ask you, Firebrand, like, how many people have you ever managed to, what's the most people you've ever managed to reach with your fire to help them be the most that they can be?
It's difficult. I can reach a lot of people in a small way, just a little spark. I think it's physical, well, not physical contact, physical presence. I've always needed physical presence before. Like giving a speech, all of that sort of thing. Obviously, I can give more to someone if I'm focusing on them.
Ironbound kind of creaks thoughtfully at you, right, and goes, I keep thinking we're facing an enemy that's so totally unified, and I wish there was some way everyone wants to survive this for us to be as of one purpose. It doesn't even feel like our team is that way some of the time, but your fire, it's not like normal fire exactly, but have you ever heard of a flashover?
Is that the thing where it's kind of stays dormant and then suddenly goes up in one thing, or am I thinking of something else?
It's pretty bad when it's real fire, just to be clear, but sometimes everything is so hot, but there isn't enough fuel that when a burst of oxygen comes in, basically the whole room catches fire at once. And I don't understand exactly what it is you do, Firebrand. I just get in the way of dangerous things, and usually that's enough. But there must be some way that you can share what you have with more people. We need you so much, and I'd much rather we were being powered by what you carry than by what Dr. Tarot is messing around with in there. And I'd like to see the moment where you were judged worthy to carry this, Firebrand.
Yeah, sure thing.
Remind me which cardinal direction you are here.
Oh, I am south.
All right.
Yeah, so I think we yeah, I think that the scene is of the yeah, I think that we see the person who was Prometheus before Firebrand took up the mantle, and it's a woman in probably in like her sort of 50s or so. She'd had the mantle for a while, and she was battling one of the previous supervillains that threatened the world. They were a kind of telekinetic psychic type, and she'd been like badly wounded in this fight, but I think we just sort of see the moment where Dell ran out and sort of dragged her to safety, and she passes the torch onto him, and he sort of takes up the battle in her place.
So Leah, you get to flip that card, and now Leah, do you want to?
Sorry,
you get to choose. Do you want to give that card, or do you want to keep that card and swap it with one from your hand?
It's a face card. No, I want Firebrand to have this nice black card.
Okay.
Firebrand and I are both rooting for the other person to make it through.
Yes. I'd like to frame a scene, if I could. Night Leap, I imagine you're still kind of looking through the base a little bit, and maybe looking at, we have records and we have trophies and things like that, and there's probably a section of stuff that's kind of devoted to your former team, and I think as you're kind of starting to go through that, I think that's when Dr. Tarot kind of pops up, like in that, oh no, I don't think you should be looking at that kind of way, and he's like, everything fine outside, Night Leap?
I think that Ironbound and Firebrand have outside taken care of. And I think what we see is Nightleap has been looking through some, electronic records. And I think Dr. Tarot has interposed himself between Nightleap and the screen. But the vision that you have, the setup that you have, you can still see part of the screen, and it lists like weaknesses and possible ways to overcome the villainous team, the Epic.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I think are you being nostalgic?
Our earlier conversation has me troubled about the techno box, and I'm looking through history and trying to learn it from a different perspective.
I'm not sure you want to look through the history of your team.
Are you saying that there's something there that I shouldn't know?
No, maybe you should know. And I think I'll kind of step away and I'll type some things on the console, and it will bring up Night Leap, but then there's a parentheses, V1.0, Night Leap V2.0, Night Leap 3.0, Night Leap 4.0. I know this because we've fought you before, and none of you remember that you're not the first.
You mean that my real parents had the same powers and you defeated them?
I mean, we broke up a couple years ago, and 3 years ago, we fought a different Night Leap. And I kind of pull up a thing. Do you think it looks exactly like you or a little bit different?
I like the idea that it's the same face and it's the same, structure, but they have, different personality that you can tell from clothing and haircut and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then I'll swipe to show you the other one and then swipe to show you the other one.
And I'm like, I'm not who I thought I was. Why did you hide this from me?
Was it my choice? It was, and I kind of gesture his choice. Sometimes he tells me to do things, and he didn't want you doubting yourself. He has a very strong sense of what it's like when someone loses their identity. Human affectation.
Well, I want you to know that whenever the time comes, you can count on me.
I have no doubt of that, actually.
I'm not certain that's true. It seems that you might have killed me before.
Yeah. On the bright side, you get stronger each time.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like that's a good place to cut that interaction. If somebody else wants to call the scene.
Yeah, I'll call a scene. I think that Ironbound and Firebrand just had a discussion about maybe Firebrand checking out the mysterious box that we have. Right? Did I catch that correctly? Good. And I think the two of you together go in to take a look at this box. You know that Dr. Turo's asleep, right? Because he said he was going to be. And I think whenever you come in to the room where the box is contained and protected, I think you see Nightleap there with the box. And that's where I want to start the scene.
That's legit.
Nice.
Oh, hello, Nightleap.
And Nightleap starts like he's doing something wrong.
Did Dr. Turo give you something to do with the box?
You could say that. I was trying to see if I could find anything out about the box. Dr. Turo worked on it for some time, but I'm not sure he has all the answers.
We aren't either. I thought Firebrand could take a look. Firebrand's all about bringing out the best of everything, and that's what we need here. I think Dr. Turo's sometimes his priorities are a little off.
Though he's undoubtedly the expert on this sort of thing, I suppose. But
It's not the only thing it's important to be an expert on.
And I think that I'm going to take like a couple of steps towards Nightleap and holds out a hand, saying, "May I?"
And I think Nightleap reaches out and takes your hand, and then reaches his other hand and puts it on the box.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
is there a voice?
What do you think, Firebrand?
I think I don't know if there's there's a voice as such, but I think maybe as there's this sort of connection made between them, I think maybe the box feels a little warmer to the touch as well, and there's definitely like a it reacts in some way, I think, but probably not something quite as overt as actually speaking.
Did you have something, Lowell?
I want to no, let's finish this up. I think I have a flashback for you in a second.
So, Ironbound, are you going to join the circle?
Sure, if you guys invite me to.
Yeah, so I think Nightleap will reach out so that you join. Because I think that there's a certain amount of camaraderie now between Nightleap and Ironbound. And I think that, it's one of those things we start to get these weird mystical feelings and visions and stuff. And I think I'd like to reveal a secret about Firebrand. And I'd like to know if this is too... so I'd like to check in. I wrote down several possible secrets and things like that, but they're all really dark. So, what if, and I think this is part of the vision that you see whenever the box communicates with you. And it's what happens whenever you pass on the flame. What if whenever you pass on the flame, you become a part of the horde that we're battling?
What?
Meaning that the horde is basically this hive mind is made up of prior people who have had the flame of Prometheus. So if you do pass upon the flame, you would become one of the hive mind mindless horde. Is that too dark, or is that... would you like to change that, or would we...
Yeah, I'm just considering. I think I'd probably like to avoid that. Yeah, I think I'd probably want to avoid like.
So, okay, so then another option I had was, what if the vision that is presented to you is that your former, the person who chose you as the bearer of the flame, you found out she was also a part of the villainous group that I was a part of?
Yeah, I think that could be interesting. Yeah. I think actually what might be quite interesting as well is if she had been like a member of that group before she took up the flame, and that was kind of that kind of mirror almost of the.
I like that also parallels the questions we have about redemption and canceling out.
Perfect. That sounds great. I like the way you took that. Yeah, that's very good. So I think part of this flashback, or part of this secret, is I don't know how I knew. It was probably from a former... now that I know I'm a series of clones, it was probably from a memory of this prior clone, and I remember serving beside your mentor. And I think... oh, you're on mute.
I think we've got a flashback to that. What was your relationship to that mentor? Is it different, or does it parallel what we're seeing here? That's the flashback I want.
With Nightleap?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that this is Nightleap felt betrayed by the mentor whenever they left the villainous group, the Epic. And so there was definitely some animosity. So whenever the Epic and the Guardians, kind of met up, and there was a fight between us, I felt this unknown anger towards Firebrand.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So how do we see that when we come back to the present? How has that changed?
Oh, I think that's whenever Nightleap breaks the circle with Firebrand. Lets go of his hand, and the lights kind of dim where the box was communicating with us.
That was that didn't make any sense. I don't know what it's showing us, why it's showing us.
You may be one who betrays us, and it seems like the box is trying to drive us apart. It's telling us things that we don't like about each other.
I don't know why you'd assume that means it's trying to drive us apart. Nightleap, we know that there are tensions in our group, and we have to face them and heal them. Knowing that they're there isn't the same thing as being driven apart. We all know about some of the things you've done, but you're here and you're a member of the team. And I turn to Firebrand, whatever you may consider doing, if you hold to the team, you're still with us. Your past, Nightleap, and your future don't matter as much as what you do right now in the present.
Yes, that's right. But also, maybe that's how it will work. If this thing, this box does seek to undermine the bonds between people, then maybe that's what it will do to the hive mind.
That's brilliant. The question is, how do we aim it or get it to do that at all? And I kind of very gently just tap the box with my massive finger, but very gently. I think it's the first time I've touched it at all, directly.
We've still got a few hurdles to cross, I guess, but you're right. We need to work together on this, no matter what.
I just feel better if we were working with the Dr. Tarot I first met when we came together, and not the person he's become. And I'd love to see a flashback from Dr. Tarot about it. Really just heightens the difference between his current, more full Jekyll for a full Hyde.
And I think we see that maybe a little bit flashier costume. I think we see them, in a fight against the Epic, and maybe a little more. We see the earlier version of Nightleap there, and Dr. Tarot's stuff is much more like creating portals that people accidentally go through and fall on their face, kind of thing, and trip, stopping up. And I think there is a moment there when we've kind of won the day, when Dr. Tarot is there, and then we can see the shift, and he's his real human person there, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know how he does it. This is kind of exhausting, you guys. How do you keep up?" Kind of looks at Ironbound, looks at Firebrand, because this is really wearing me out.
You should get some rest. You've got to take care of yourself, because you want to make sure you're the one channeling him and not vice versa.
Oh, I don't have to worry about that. But I feel like maybe we're pushing it. Maybe I should, like clearly he's like, maybe you should quit, kind of like he's clearly thinking that way, kind of looks around at the two of you.
Look, I trust you. Whatever you think is best. If it's too much, maybe you do need to let go a little.
Kind of looks like he doesn't want to disappoint you, Firebrand, because you're, Flame of Prometheus, that kind of thing. And I think he says, no, I think it'll be okay as long as we're together, as long as we're kind of a family. I can have your support, and I can stay in control as long as that doesn't change.
You'll always have my support. So
We believe in you.
Jasper, he'll say. Well, actually, yeah, use the.
We believe in you, Jasper, and you can trust us to try and help you hold on. I would not really want to be with your other self full time. He's good in a battle, but he's not exactly a good teammate, even to you.
And I think there's that sort of freeze frame kind of smile laugh there as we cut back to Dr. Thoreau, like distributing out the weapons to people before he comes back into the base, and he's looking at the, of course everything's done a little more shadow, and I think then he probably looks on the monitor and sees the three of you by the bomb, and is like, Urgh.
All right, shall I flip that card?
Yes.
It's a 2.
It's a 2. All right. Now, Leah, you have to take a break here shortly, right?
I think so. I'm going to check with Alexi to see how much the baby wants to take her nap now.
Okay. We'll take a pause here.
I'll be back in a second to give you guys an update.
Okay.
Do we want to have a scene with the three of us, or do we want to wait for a little bit?
Let's wait for a bit. We want to see what so if Leah's timing is that's going to happen now, we might take a little bit longer break, deal out another random card to everybody, and then kind of move to the end sequence just to tie a bow on it.
And the end sequence happens whenever we each have 5 cards, including the one in our hand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We haven't seen much trading of cards yet. The purpose of that is to try to manipulate a little bit about how the end game is going to go and who survives and who doesn't.
Yeah. So what will happen in the end game is we'll look at and kind of narrate each of the steps that we've gone on the ticking the things up. And then we will see where everybody's at. You'll have the opportunity to swap cards with other people. If you have a point of destiny, you can mark that to essentially offer them a black or a red card. If you offer them a black card, they have to take it. If they offer them a red card, they can choose.
And what happens in the case of a tie?
Well, there is no tie.
Oh, because there's 5 cards.
There's 5 cards.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
That's why we have the hidden card, so nobody quite knows what everybody's destiny is. It's a nice little mechanism. I'll admit that one of the things about this game is it calls out for a lot more room. Like, I think this would actually be the kind of game that if you were to do it as like an all-day LARP kind of thing, it would be just dynamite. But I wanted to play with. I hadn't run it online. I'd only run it face to face. So I wanted to try this out. I'm not sure how doing it in 2 parts would work, because I think that break. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and take about a 20-minute break. I'll stop recording. We'll check back at that point, and then. If Leah's back by then we'll move ahead. If not, then we'll kind of deal out a random card, maybe talk a little bit about some scene setting. Sound good?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to hand out another card, and that'll give us our 4 cards plus our card that's hidden. I'm going to put it over in your area, and you can flip it over at your leisure. Has everybody got a card?
I got a face card.
Oh, so did I.
Oh.
Oh, so that's 3 more ticks on the clock.
Not great.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. So this is, let me walk through the process of how this is going to work. We've got those 5 ticks on the Endgame clock. And what we're going to do is we're going to sort of take turns walking through, reading the Battle Chronicle, and we're going to rotate reading that. And when the Battle Chronicle is done, any character whose cards are mostly black will survive to face the fallout, and any character whose cards are mostly red will die in the fighting. But what you can do is you can exchange cards if you have destiny marked to show how you help and hinder one another in the course of combat. If you offer someone a black card, then they have to take it. If you offer someone a red card, it's up to them whether they accept. If I give you a black card, you have to give me a red card, and vice versa. So that's how that goes. And we'll kind of, as we go through, maybe talking a little bit about what each of these things look like, and then we'll go through the aftermath of all of this, which will involve choosing from our cards and seeing whether we win the actual whole battle or not. So we start with this. I'm going to ask this question to the table because we haven't decided this. What do they look like? Is it a bunch of people that have been hive-minded, or is it like alien sort of technology? We know that we see the weather coming in and roiling in, but what does this Morphomagus look like, and what do these things look like?
I will preemptively
yeah.
X-card them being bugs.
Okay.
As we talk about I just don't want skittering awful.
Absolutely.
things.
Sure.
I have a quick
it's-
question.
Yeah.
On the cards, who is East? Is that Firebrand?
I'm East.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we actually, let's go over for 1 second who's who again, just because
So actually, I'm writing it all into the chat.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Yeah, I wish these were editable.
Yeah, I'm
So-
south. But yeah.
Good.
Cool.
Okay, so I think I've got that right.
I've got to remember next time I can edit those labels, and I should have done that during one of these breaks. I'll remember that if I run this again. Okay.
On the question, I sort of already had it in my head that they were alien to the Earth.
Okay.
In some way. So that was kind of
Are they
headcanon.
humanoid in structure, or are they more, I don't know, octopi or something that would be very foreign to us?
I like the idea of them maybe being not non-humanoid, just for a bit of interest. Maybe octopi type.
I like
something-
octopi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like,
Maybe that, and maybe some like octopi war machines and like octopi battle armor that we see there. Let me ask you this, because of course we're seeing this on screen. What's the predominant color for them? Like what color do we see as like the main? Because it's all like dark brown green for Thanos's stuff in Endgame. What do you think is the predominant color? Is it red, orange, purple? What do you think?
I like those sort of kind of maybe like mix of like that kind of coral orange and purples and
very sunset color palette.
Yeah.
But like vivid, not just like, oh, it's a dangerous time. It's all green.
yeah.
So we got the storm brewing. We've got these things coming over the horizon, and so I'll start. So I think we see that city down below. We see the of the landers, and then the things start to come out, and we see the other forces pouring over the horizon. And I think on camera we'll probably see all the people outside that we've been helping, and we've seen through this whole thing. Some of them are still at the barricades, but now the sheer numbers of these things are panicking people, and some of them are starting to fall back, and I imagine that we're out there talking with them, trying to uh, uh, figure out what to do next. David, I'll let you take the next segment in the end game.
Sure thing. So the next segment is that the enemy breaks through our outer defenses and flood through. So I think that this is the obviously we kind of armed some of the people in the camps, and there's probably some military types and stuff around as well, and I think we kind of see them kind of fighting off at the perimeters, but as this wave of creatures comes towards us, that start to overwhelm those defenders. I think during this time we've been kind of getting all of the non-combatants into the actual base itself, and I think with this, that outer sort of perimeter defenses are starting to pull back now. Some orderly, some less so, as we mount a full retreat back into Guardian Prime.
Stephen, it seemed like you were going to say something. I saw this. Maybe I'll get wrong.
I just want to know a little about what those weapons look like, since we had a pretty crazy range of things someone was handing out.
Yeah, I think we've probably got kind of like laser blasts and big explosions, but also like weird like gas emitters, and a couple of octopi being stuck together with like webbing and all this sort of like and as I said, it's all like a number of different sort of nicely themed villain equipment being used in just like a haphazard fashion.
And then let Night Leap, Stephen, narrate this third segment here.
And this would be the enemy targets the object.
Yeah.
So I think that we've all retreated back into Guardian Prime as the overwhelming mass of the hive mind has kind of overwashed the area. And we see on the display screens, we see all of these flashes where the mass of people are all, the different locations are all being overrun. And, it's almost unimaginable to see kind of what's going on. And as we do so, we see like some of these screens flicker, and then the power goes out for some of them, and we hear this creaking up above us. And, we all look up, and there's kind of dust that starts to fall, and then rubble, and the whole roof of Guardian Prime comes off, and we see the enemy there at the gates. And if I may, I think we see Dr. Tarot run back to the room with the box. And as they're coming in and they are focused in on where this box is. And we see Dr. Tarot hit a button on the side of the wall, and the box drops out of sight underground, and basically, and then I think the room collapses on top of it.
Nice. And then Leah, have you take the fourth line.
Yeah, the enemy triumphs and destroys the first defenders, cutting us down and forcing us to pull back to regroup. I think those first defenders that we've kind of lost a lot of the purely civilian people, or they've scattered, or they're just completely enmeshed in the octopi. But what this is that there's like a real gap in the lines, and then just as the octopi surge forward, filling it in are a bunch of really sidekicky or chintzy heroes, right, who have all rallied here. So there's like a multiplying man where he can make infinite copies of himself, but they're always half as big as the previous copy. And like standing, and then like a smaller one standing next to him, and then even they just like falling off. Someone who can change like the colors of other people, but only like to one color at a time. So we kind of see, her as like octopi ripple around her, and hopefully she's, nice name, the long division man, disrupting their communication slightly. There's a person who's like prismatic lad who can focus light but is as brittle as glass, and he's probably one of the first ones to fall. But it's all these kind of non-impressive heroes who are getting mowed down, really, but we get a moment of a glimpse of each of their powers as they slow things down just a little, but not enough, and now the forces pour back through that gap.
And I think we've had to fall back, and I think the next shot is of us falling down into that, heading down into that bunker, and we're trying to get the staff. These are people that we called back that knew how to operate the Guardian Prime, including that woman that was on the monitors, and all the people we've kind of seen in the background that, in previous stories had their own backstory and stuff. And I think that we're trying to get them to safety, to get down to where the bomb is, but someone, we're trying to grasp them and they fall away, or they're grabbed up by octopus tentacles and pulled away. And we're the last four getting down into the bottom of the area there. Does anyone want to do any card trading? I think I'm happy with where I am. Stephen, you have Destiny. Do you want to trade anything?
Yeah, I'm going to see how this works. I would like to trade something with Ironbound. So I'm going to offer this black 10.
All right. Well, then
And if I'm not mistaken, that means that mechanically you have to take a black.
Yep. But you have to tell me a little bit how you're helping me, I think, in the middle of this fight. I'm giving you my king.
Awesome. So I think that what we see is this fight where the octopi are kind of overflowing into our area, and they're grabbing some of these support people out. And I think we see this a number of these octopi come in and surround Ironbound. And Ironbound is being pulled down, and once they get Ironbound down, she can't resist them pulling her back out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's whenever we see Nightleap jump in and start slaughtering these octopi, so that as they're pulling you down, one of them suddenly is split in half, and you have enough strength there that you can actually keep upright, and then another one on the other side is reduced to nothing, and you're able to keep that strength up so that you can keep upright and they won't pull you off.
Nice.
Love it.
So any other trading?
Is there trading possible if you don't have Destiny?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
And had we play if we got a longer game, it'd probably been a little more of that.
Right.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure mechanically if there was a way.
Yeah, I'm Destinied out, so.
And I actually think that I am going to see Ironbound, not retreating when they ought to retreat. And I think that, after what Nightleap has done, I think we see Dr. Tarot get up, get in the way, and we see one card, two cards, the whole deck spreading out, and him turning around, and in what is clearly Jasper's voice saying, "Go, you need to fall back to do the device. You need to convince it." And I will give you a black 2.
You guys are such big softies. I love that it's Jasper's voice. I was going to ask if you didn't say. Awesome.
And we can all pull out our final card to show where we're at and put it in our area. Oh, thank goodness that was going to be very bad for Ironbound.
Yep.
And so we can see that neither Nightleap nor I are going to survive this, but that Firebrand and Ironbound are. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. Now, what you're going to do, and we'll do this one by one, pull all your cards back into your area. So let's start with north. And then east. And then south. And then I'll go. Now, each of us is going to put a face down card from those out on the table. If you think we lose, put a red card out. If you think we win, then we put a black card out.
So how do we put it out as face down?
I think click on
okay,
it.
I've got it. Yeah.
Now I'm going to take these cards and I'm going to goof around with them for a bit here. See me move things around until I can't tell where things are. Kind of stack them around. I'm sure someone could tell which is which. I am going to grab the second card from the bottom and flip it over, put it in the north space, and we win. So let's start Nightleap. What do we see of like, how does this end? What's your part in the end? How do you pass?
Okay, good. I'm glad you prompted me with like, this is the final scene kind of thing. So I think Nightleap sees Dr. Turow behind, and he's put up all of his cards to block them, and he looks panicked because we've got a plan. And as they get back, they find that they reach the area where the box is, and Nightleap turns to Ironbound and says, "I need your help." And the two of them walk over to the box, and if I'm not mistaken, Ironbound hasn't touched the box or communicated with it.
I tapped it very lightly with a finger, but that was it. Yeah, very minimal.
I think that Nightleap puts your hand on one side of the box and he puts his hand on the other side of the box.
Mm-hmm.
And we start to communicate with the box and explain the issue here. And I think, Dr. Turow, you narrated that this was a bomb and that it was sentient. And I explain, I think Ironbound hears some of the thought and the images that are coming across, but, situation is dire. We need your help. We need for this to explode. We need for you to do your duty. And the box answers back. And I think the box answers back and says, this is the most, is the situation most dire? Is this the need? And Nightleap indicates yes. And I think we see this mystical lightning kind of shoot out of the box and spread out, and it passes through all the passageways. And as we see, I think there's a draining element. I think that Nightleap and Ironbound, I think Nightleap like turns into his shadow state, and it gets pulsing, and I think Ironbound sees some energy, and you can see kind of the revving and everything.
I think you even see some of her like ironboundness rusting away, so like she's much
nice.
smaller by the end of
Yeah. And I think that in this process, the box, we expected the box to disintegrate or to go away, and the box does not. But Night Leap kind of dissolves into where the box was.
Ironbound, you survive. What do we see in this?
Now, let me just check. If I'm 50-50, I do survive. I have neither as the majority at this
Well,
point.
you should have 5 cards, even the one you put up.
Oh, that still counts for us. Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. All right, I'll talk about that afterwards.
Oh,
before we
sure.
talk about mechanics, but I didn't realize that. All right, then yes, I survive. So I think what we kind of see is that one of the things that's changed here for her as a result of the battle is that she can exit her armor now. Like it wore away enough that it really is something she can kind of uncomfortably, so she doesn't do it as often as you might think, but slip in and out of. And we see her kind of exploring the world almost incognito at this point, right? Because her civilian identity is just not that big a deal. And it's just a montage of her kind of traveling through this, harrowed city, right? But like, we see her in her full armor, like helping rebuild things by picking up cars that are all smashed and like carrying them to a junkyard. But then like she slips behind a tree and is just like walking through a field in her bare feet for the first time in a really long time. And I think the last thing we see of her epilogue is that she's holding that cat again and she's out of her armor and she's at the house and goes, gosh, I found this cat and it seemed to be trying to get back to you. Is this your cat? And the mom's like trying to hold the door shut. And then you see this like kind of little terror of it little boy who's like, he's back. And you just see in the very back, like that I've hidden my armor in their bushes so that I can return this incognito.
Amazing. David, what about for Firebrand?
Yeah, so I think we again get kind of a bit of a montage of like the world trying to put itself back together again, sort of the damage being repaired, and I think there's a we just sort of get a scene of like somewhere it's not particularly clear where it is, but there's obviously some people working on rebuilding sort of houses and structures. The weather's quite severe still. There's like winds and rain lashing at it. So they're sort of all working out there. But there's just that sort of moment where there's a sort of moment of warmth passes over the place, and it kind of reinvigorates them as they carry on their work. And as one of these people who's sort of been working on this construction, they kind of step back and wipe a hand across the back of their forehead, and there's sort of a hand on their shoulder, and Firebrand, as they sort of turn around, Firebrand places the torch in their hand, and yet says, we need people to rebuild from this.
Nice. And I imagine for Dr. Thoreau, we see him, in the immediate aftermath, walking along, like doing stuff and kind of, but as he's doing it, kind of slowing down, and maybe there's the pan out where Thoreau kind of looks and realizes that, there are holes in him. There's burns that he's kind of not been cognizant of the body, and that he kind of suddenly realizes that he's essentially worn out this body, and that we see that body kind of walk a little bit more and then fall. And maybe we see like an explosion of those cards, a spectral heading out, flying, and we can see them kind of like butterflies landing and vanishing on people there. The idea maybe there's some spark that's carried on in the aftermath of this, and I imagine that there are some of the survivors that would pick up Jasper's body for an actual burial. And that's what I've got.
I have to ask, Jasper's definitely dead. Is the spirit looking for a new home as people are picking up those cards or not?
That's why I wonder. I don't know, but I just love the idea that we don't know whether the spirit has gone into the cards or whether this is some sort of ephemera. I like the idea that maybe there's one card that floats down and falls on the body face down, so we don't know what it is.
And that's very comic book like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Would you all mind doing stars and wishes, some thoughts on this to go around? I want to say I'll go ahead and start. Game facilitators prerogative. There's my throat. So I love these characters. I love this setup. This was an absolute pleasure to play with the three of you. Such good coming up with things, such good back and forth, really dynamite. Just had such a good time. Like this is what I want out of the game. That part is so good. Wishes, which is also maybe a little bit of thorns on this, is I've run this before and I always know it takes longer than you think. Sometimes I get 3 rounds on a 4-hour thing. But most of the time it's like this. And I do think that at some point I'd like to do this either as a 2-part, like they'll be really close to one another so we wouldn't break it apart, like a day 1, day 2 thing, or I'll say we're going to take the day to play this whole thing out, and do it as like a house party thing or something. So that it'd be my sort of thorns, wishes, stars. But I really had a good time. Really very good time. Let's go keeper order since I started there. David?
Yeah, sure thing. Those stars all around. There's some really, really nice moments from everyone in there, and really great characters. Interesting questions too. I really like some of the questions people came up with. Specific, just little moments I really liked. I loved the Lowell. I loved the arming people with this random stash of supervillain weapons is just a really nice, just like but both like a nice like little comic touch, but also like a very like the pragmatic hero thing. So it felt like I said, it felt like a comic touch, but also it felt appropriate for the character to do it rather than being something out of character. Sort of like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if we gave all the people weapons, sort of thing. So that was cool. I loved the rescuing the cat. Just that first. Was it the first time? It felt like the first time we saw Ironbound just coming in with the rescued cat was just like perfect. I really enjoyed that. And Stephen, just some great moments throughout with Nightleap. But the thing I particularly wanted to call out for a star there was the checking in with the revealing the secret. I thought you handled that well and took the my negation on that. Well, so that's thank you for that. It's always good when when safety tools get used as appropriate and stuff. So no, thank you very much for that. Wishes said it's like a lot of these, I mean, well, all games in general, but particularly these like technically lightweight story games. I always want to like play a game now knowing how to play it, if that makes sense, because like I think obviously, Lowell, you've already said about the pacing, and I think, if it's that kind of dual thing where I think, and then theoretically, I have played this before, but as we were discussing before we started recording, that was probably about 7 years ago now. So my memories of it are vague, to say the least. But yeah, I think that it's that thing where, if like we did, you get quite into the sort of describing scenes and stuff, all these games can just take a lot longer. They always take a bit longer playing them online as opposed to playing them in person, because it's just not as natural. So those things, but I think in this specifically as well, it's things like, because there's that kind of mixture of like structure and lack of structure, blended together, I feel that's where it's a little tricky. I think maybe if we had been a bit like, it's like, because I liked how we played it, but I feel like maybe if we'd been a bit stricter on saying you get to frame a scene and then you get to ask a question and then you move on, whereas maybe I think we'd have been a bit snappier on getting through the scenes. I feel like it could have done with that. I enjoyed what we did anyway, but I felt like that would have been maybe it might have just been a bit quicker, a bit pacier to have done it like that. Likewise, again, things like when we got to the end and sort of again, partly in the pacing, like I was probably a bit more coy on hitting some of those secrets and disagreements and stuff, because like I was expecting to maybe get at least one more round out than we did, and that sort of thing. So I would have lent into those a bit harder, a bit earlier, I guess would be my sort of thing to do. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it.
Leah?
Yeah, a lot of fun. I think with this GM-less game, when they're shared GMing game, one thing I really liked is that people made big, strong choices and then we negotiated how to use them or when to walk them back. So a sentient bomb was just such an amazing choice. And for all of us to know that and decide where and how anyone else would find it out was really cool. Stephen, I really liked you proposing something so nuts for a secret. And I love that safety tools let people take bigger chances, because it's like, well, let me just throw out the wildest thing. All right, like either we're going with that or we're walking it back. All right, we're walking it back. So I think that was just a really nice moment of considering, are we doing this? Right. And ultimately deciding no, but plenty of big swingy choices. I just love that on our team that has a literal former assassin, we're all like, man, it is definitely our sorcerer we're all worried about. Let's talk to the assassin about like how we bring our main leader, like as far as I could tell, back from, at least as he considered it, like back from the brink. Just a lot of fun there. I think mechanically, I wish there were a few places where the story, and this, I'm not sure if this is in the reskin or the core thing, gave a few more starting points for setting scenes a little bit, or pacing, because I love the quick drop downs as a way of doing character creation, just having a few evocative details to start out with. And I was kind of also curious about how to pace some of our scene setting, especially when it's the night before. I'm like, at some point, do we move into it's literally like time to go to bed? Not just because I'm putting a baby down for a nap during the game, right? But I was wondering, like, will there be a phase where we like narrate scenes about like dreams or sleeplessness, or are we like preparing the whole time and then we go to bed like it's over, or is there the morning? So it's just made me kind of curious, and I love the end game track mechanically. Like I love the face cards. Reminds me of the like worst parts of playing the game Pandemic, where you turn over a card and you're like, so I'm kind of curious if there's any interesting track like that for preparation, just to give a little structure. And then I'll do a small like self-promotional hat of, that was a big thing we thought about for our game coming to Kickstarter for Zine Quest, back again from the Broken Land, about how to leave a lot of room for telling your own story, but have just enough of a prompt that it's easy to launch into setting a scene with like, the story of how your sword was shattered, right? Like,
I think I would love, and I think if I do this again, to have like a set of, here are places and things that we can do scenes in to frame up, to get us thinking about that. I think that's a really, really good idea. Having a few more inspirational tools would make things faster. And if you're watching this, I will be putting the link to the Kickstarter said mentioned in the show notes. So there we go. Stephen?
So I actually noticed that there's some prompts in the character keeper, like what made you join up with the rest of us and stuff like that. Did you put that there, Lowell?
That is a modification of the ones they have in the thing, and I completely forgotten that they have the prompts down there. Thank you.
Well, I kept that in my back pocket. You know, luckily I wasn't one of the first ones to come up with a scene, and I'm like, okay, if I don't get a scene from the rest of this, maybe I can hit one of these prompts. So, yeah. I'll start with wishes. Um, I so I felt a little bit uncomfortable whenever I started developing my character and everything because I was coming at the comic genre from a different perspective, which is I guess I read a lot of dark comics and stuff like that. And I realized that, um, with the comic genre, there's a lot of different, different pieces that people are coming from.
Mhm.
And I can kind of get a feel for what different people read, what comics people read from, the kind of characters that they have or the interest or the storylines that they have. Um, and I really appreciate everybody kind of, you know, leaping in and saying, "Oh yeah, this, your dark character fits in well with our super heroic characters." And then where I tossed out dark ideas like about secrets and stuff. Uh, One of the things I really liked was I liked the engagement with each other in the secrets, which is
Mhm.
one of the reasons I pushed it. And I actually had a little list off to the side of here's some possible secrets. And as I looked them over, I was like, these are all super dark and they're kind of stomping on people's character. And I need to check in with all of these. So I really appreciate that. Um, as far as stars, I mean, I got a lot of feels from, you know, past comics and past things that I'd seen. Like the sentient bomb, to me smelled a little bit like Doctor Who,
Mm.
right? With the War Doctor kind of stuff. And I really enjoyed the humanity that Leah brought to Ironbound. And, it was interesting that probably one of us who looked the least human was the most human. And with your epilogue kind of resolved that and fixed it all up. I was really pleased with that. And I really liked um, with Firebrand how well he fit in and like helped the rest uh, of of the group that we had here. And I, again, I have to say thank you for leaning into some of the suggestions that I made. And then with Dr. Thoreau, I liked how you played him a little bit very chaotic, right? A little bit on the darker side, um, but maybe not really on the darker side. Um, Another thing that I have to comment about is the mechanics. Other than the secrets, which I really dig in role playing games, and being able to toss that out and have that develop story, I really like the use of the cards and the mechanic of passing them back and forth.
Mhm.
Um, at the end of our game, it became very important, and we could tell from the character direction where we wanted to go. And hiding one of your cards meant I knew there was no way I could survive at that point. And it was like, what can we do to kind of develop the story in a satisfying way that would be like a comic ending? So we could all kind of contribute to that. I really like that mechanical backup for that story.
Yeah, I think this game has some brilliant ideas in it, and I think it is a game that needs the space to do it in and I know that it's been used as a LARP version as well, which I can imagine is really I know James Stewart did that at Gen Con the year that I was there. So yeah, I dig it, and I thank you so much for going through this with me. I really appreciate doing this, and I think yeah, maybe not this GCOG, but maybe another GCOG. I'll do like a 2-3 hour blocks, where we can do this to starter and then 2 rounds and then 2 rounds in the finisher. I think that might be the right length to do it in. But I had a great time.
I
Yeah.
also really liked, Stephen, the tonal range of
Yeah.
our supers, because it feels like the bigger a battle is, the more everyone does in a crossover event have like, okay, so we've got the person who just punches things next to the person who alters the fabric of reality and the one who killed their mentor versus like the one from our kids line, and we've got to like blend this all. So I loved that. And every time you were kind of pushing back on the different tones, for me, that's exactly what I signed up for.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I had a great time. I'm going to stop the recording. So bye.